Hey guys, just got done watching 2006 When a Stranger Calls, starring Camilla Bell, Tommy Flanagan, who's obviously Chibs in Sons of Anarchy, Katie Cassidy, who's in Arrow and Nightmare on Street, the remake, Black Christmas, or Black Xmas, whatever way you want to call it, the remake of Black Christmas, Tessa Thompson, Brian Giaffi, Clark Craig, Derek D. Lint, Kate Jennings Grant, David Denman, and Arthur Young. So basically, the film starts out, and it looks like you're seeing like a fairground, and this girl gets a phone call. You don't see her; she gets a phone call, and what happens? She goes, "Hello," and basically, there's this real creepy guy on the line going, "Hi." So this is through basically the intro, you know, like with the credits and all this, the credit intro, like starring Kate Cassidy and all this. And then at the end of the thing, you see the shadow of this bloke in the window. Ah! He jumps and you hear, ah! Ah! You know, the usual beginning of a horror movie, if you're lucky. Then we meet Camilla Bell, Jill Johnson. That's right, Jill Johnson, the sister of James Johnson. Anyway, before I get into that story. Anyway, so Jill basically is running around and she's not doing good. And it turns out that her friend Tiffany kissed her boyfriend Bobby. It happens, you know. It happens. Jill's angry with Tiffany. Tiffany's like, you know me, I'm just a slat of the skull. When you're like, yep, you're Kate Cassidy, can't act, and you're shit. Unless you're in Arrow. And then basically it turns out that she's grounded, and that basically she's going to be babysitting for Dr. Mandrakis and his wife Kelly Mandrakis. And the reason she's babysitting for them, one of the reasons, is because she's grounded. So when she goes home, she's grounded because she ran up a phone bill of 800 minutes. Do you know how much 800 minutes costs? Because he never told me, and I want to know. So she gets dropped off there, and they go. They're quite nice, the family, the husband and wife. They're like, don't worry, we've got plenty of food in the fridge. And I remember babysitting, and the fridge was the best thing, the food. That's what Mrs. Mandrakis says to her. Mandrakis, sorry. So they sob off wherever they're going. And at this point, they talk about there's a housekeeper. And you sit there thinking, hold on a minute. Rosa, the housekeeper's there. She lives there. Why do they need a babysitter when Rosa lives there? Why can't she just kind of keep an eye on them until 12? Is this a setup for a horror film? Is it? Yes, it is. So basically, she sits down, she checks out the TV, blah, 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 and everything starts going to be loud. So then she starts getting phone calls and like, hello. And you're like, is it her? And there's some prank phone calls like, what you wearing? And, are your panties wet? Stuff like that. Well, then you get this guy calling going, hello. And it's really creepy. So a little bit later on, she's getting a bit creeped out, obviously, like any young girl would. And just sitting there going, And then you're like, when is she going to check on the kids? 10 minutes through the movie, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, 45 minutes. Are they going to be okay? Because she's getting all these phone calls. And all of a sudden her friend Tiffany turns up, Katie Cassidy, and she says that the garage door was open. And you're like, someone's in the house. Someone's in the house. Right? You're like, woo, someone's in the house. Come on, it's getting going now. So basically, Jill and Tiffany talk, and Tiffany goes, look, you got with him. I wanted to be with him, but I never got to kiss him, so I thought I was owed it. And you're sitting there going, slut. So then she leaves and she gets in her merrily car, but she hears like footsteps as she's getting in the car. But she drops the keys. Oh no, she's gonna get them. You gotta remember, this is a horror film, and because we've seen so many people get killed, she doesn't get got because she's got to get in that car first. Gets in the car, I'm like, it's in the back seat. It's in the back seat. It's in the back seat. No. She reverses, the gate's locked, and there's like this big massive branch in the way. And then it just cuts from her, and you're like, we're not going to see her death scene, are we? We're not going to see her death scene. Let me tell you something about Katie Cassidy. She's in these horror movies, and the one reason I watch them is because I want to see her death scene. I want to see her die, because I love seeing Katie Cassidy die. Not in Arrow, but in everything else. Die. So, basically, then she gets this knocking on the door, Jill. And she's like, all right, hold on, Tiffany. Hello, Tiffany, hold on. I'm like, no one there. It's just a windy, blowy night. You know. And so she keeps on moving. And she gets these phone calls. And she realises the outhouse is a thingy. The outhouse lights on. And she's like, not the outhouse, like the guest house. The inn, you know, whatever it is, I don't know. The inn, the keeper's house, whatever it is, I don't know. I don't care. I know it's not an outhouse, but it's like guest house, whatever it is. Anyway, you guys know what it is. So she decides she's going to run across there, leave the kids upstairs in the house, run across in the rain, and yeah, there's possibly a stalker outside. There's possibly somebody who's playing games with her. So she gets out of there and she runs through basically the Sleepy Hollow set. That's why I like calling it, Sleepy Hollow. All these trees, I expected the Headless Horseman to get up and go, ooh, and get her, but he didn't. So she gets in the house and there's all this thinking, because she calls the police and goes, oh, and they go, if he gets 60 seconds on the phone with you, we can trace him. So he calls on the wrong phone, a different line. And she's like, oh no. So she looks everywhere and then she runs back through the Sleepy Hollow set. Where was Johnny Depp? Where was the guy from the new series? Where was the Headless Horseman? So she goes through the house, she gets in the house. And yeah, it gets creepy. It calls her again. And Rose is missing. Rose is nowhere to be found. And you're like, Rosa, where are you? Because at the beginning, she hears some noise. Jill, at the beginning of the film, she hears some noise. And she goes in, there's Rosa, and Rosa goes, hello. But they don't have any other conversations other than that. So you're like, okay, it's a bit weird. But anyway, going back to present. So she's like, oh, and somehow she gets in this room, the bathroom. And the door shuts. And she goes, ah! And it turns out just to be like, you know, like a hat and coat. So she turns around, the phone rings, ah! And it's a bloke. And he goes, it's in the house! The caller's in the house! It's coming from in the house! And she's like, oh! She turns around and there's her best friend Tiffany's dead body with the phone ringing beside her. And you're like, oh my. So then she goes out, runs upstairs to look for the kids. The kids are missing. And you're like, you should have checked on them earlier. You're a bad babysitter and you're a bad daughter for running up those 800 minutes. See what happens? The minute killer comes for you. So she comes. So she comes. Oh dear, I cracked myself up. Anyway. So basically, she finds them in the box. They're hiding in their toy chest thing. She runs out with them, and the killer jumps down, right? And he's like, "Ooh!" And he's following them, and you know she's running, and there's a bit where he grabs hold of her hair, and she locks the door and pulls the light out, and her hair comes out, and. There's a bit where she puts this thing for like this big rain thing to thing, like watering, you know, walk in the garden kind of thing. Those things so they can't see out the window. She hides the kids in the corner in plain sight where they can't be seen. But it's plain sight once the smoke clears, you know, like the smoke from the air, from the water, hot water. And she's under this bridge thing in the water. And basically he walks over it. And she goes under the water and she sees Rose and she goes, it goes up. So she's like, and all this, and he doesn't hear her apparently. So then the water fountain thing stops and the smoke starts clearing. And what do the kids do? They start walking. And one of them stands on a rock. He goes, and you're like, uh-oh, because he's seen them. But in the whole movie, I had the feeling that he didn't want the kids. He wanted the teenager. Come on. I think he wanted to wait about, what, 6, 7 more years maybe? Depends on how old they were. So, he grabs hold of her like this, and she somehow moves the bridge, so he goes flying in the water. Now, to be honest with you, her weight and his weight, I don't think that was possible, to be honest. But anyway, he goes in the water, she runs through that door, he goes over her hair, and all this, and they end up in a bit of a fight. The kids are trying to get out, and they can't because the top block is locked. So they end up hiding again, and she's like, kids, where are you? Where are you? And it turns out he broke the glass and got in because you see his footprints. So you think, holy moly, he's got the kids. Nope, they're hiding in like this fireplace looking thing, like this hole in the wall. And she's like, quick! They get outside, he locks the door, there's a fight that ensues. She kicks him, thumbs him in the eye, and prods him and sticks his hand in the thing. She gets outside, and there you have it. The copper's there. We've got him. He's going to be banged up, you know. So she's sitting there outside by the ambulance, and he's got handcuffs on, foot cuffs, leg cuffs, a penis cuff, everything that's going to lock him down. And you're like, okay, cool. And she goes, it's not enough. It's not enough. It's going to come for me. So the police car goes by, and he goes like this. And that's when you notice for the first time that the stranger is Tommy Flanagan, who plays Chips in Sons of Anarchy. And I'm like, yeah, he should have killed her. He should have killed her. Oh no, I'd love to have seen Chips kill her. So then it shows her waking up in a hospital with balloons. One pops and she goes, and she walks out and the phone rings, and you're like, okay, this is one of those end of the movie things where the phone rings, she's going to pick up, and you're going to hear the voice and it's going to finish. Nope. She hears the voice and it shows her going, and going all crazy and then needing to inject her to calm her down. Well, that's the end. And I thought the movie was very suspenseful. I enjoyed it. I thought it was very suspenseful, and I thought the tension was really well done. And I really, really enjoyed Camilla Bell's performance. I would have liked to have seen more Katie Cassidy, because, you know, I'm an Arrow fan, and as much as I'm going about I want to see her die, it's only for the good of the movie, you know. I did enjoy it. I thought all the characters were pretty good. Camille Bell, a lot of people diss her acting, but I thought it was pretty decent. I have to admit, I did think she should have been a little bit more scared as the babysitter, because let's be honest, if you're getting phone calls and someone goes they want your blood, you're not going to run outside, are you? Because you're going to be a bit scared. And why would you leave the kids on their own? If it was me and I was a woman, I'd go upstairs, I'd lock myself in a room with the kids, and I would call the police to get them to come round. I'd say, there's someone in the house, just so they come round, so I'd be safe. But nope, not in this movie, because in this movie, it has to drag on for a while. Now, depending on who you are, this movie would be very, very boring, or it'd be very, very clever. Because I found it quite clever. Now, I haven't seen the original. I have got the original one on Blu-ray, and I will review that very soon when I get the time to, when I choose to. But I enjoyed this movie. I enjoyed the characters. I thought the characters were all pretty well done. The development was a little bit there. It wasn't fantastic, but it was there. And yeah, I would recommend it. I would recommend watching this. I can't recommend the original because I've never seen it. But I would recommend giving When a Stranger Calls a go, because it's not a bad film. I always say that in these reviews, don't I? It's a pretty decent movie. I enjoyed it. I have to admit, it could have been a lot better. There's some scenes where I thought could have been a lot better, like she kept calling her friends on the people's phones, so she's running up even more minutes. So she's going to be even more grounded. But anyway, I recommend When a Stranger Calls, and yeah, so yeah, I enjoyed all the cast. It was really well directed, great pace. So I give it a 3.5 out of 5. And yeah, guys, give it a go. If you haven't watched it, give it a go. If you have, let me know what you thought of it. That's When a Stranger Calls from 2006. Thanks for watching, guys, and take care.